Americans aren't the only ones that are upset about this. And I want to give a hat tip to the Associated Press for putting this together, because being a typically a very left-leaning news organization, not as bad as some, obviously, but being sort of a left-leaning news organization, the AP tends to not run stories that hurts their cause, but they kind of did in this one, and I appreciate the Associated Press doing some actual journalistic work. So apparently hundreds of protesters in Tijuana, Mexico came out the other day to protest the Caravan stopping in their city. Not Americans. People living in Mexico, in Tijuana, came out and protested in droves, saying they did not want the people in the Caravan in their city, and they were kind of bunking there. And you'll love this. The chants that they were issuing, the first one, this is according to the AP, remember, Donald Trump was right. This is an invasion. They were actually chanting this. Donald Trump was right. This is an invasion. And they're right. By any dictionary definition, and this is what I got onto a rant with Donald, not this morning, but about a week ago, about the president calling it an invasion. You can only come up with, and we looked at the dictionary definitions of them, 2 out of the 3 definitions, 2 out of the 3 fit the Caravan. And so if you're looking at the dictionary, not 1 but 2 of the definitions they provided actually fit the description that was going on there. So by that standard, this is absolutely an invasion. It is invading somebody else's land or domain. And they're doing so without their consent. Ergo, it's an invasion. And so you look at that, the Tijuanans are exactly right. Donald Trump was right on this one. And they also chanted, "Get out, Hondurans, we don't want you here." Man, those evil, hateful, bigoted Mexicans that just hate brown people. Because isn't that what the media has been telling us this whole time? That if you are against the Caravan, it's because you are a racist, you're a bigot, you hate brown people, and you don't want more brown people in America, and that's why you don't want the Caravan coming through. No, I'm against illegal immigration. I'm against people breaking laws. I don't care whether you're brown or black or white or purple or green with blue polka dots, which that actually would be pretty interesting. If you are breaking the law, you need to be held accountable for that law. You don't get to just run into the country whenever you want to. And another thing, too, about the refugee status thing. I'm glad that I live in a country where we do take in refugees. We do care about people. We try to do the best that we can to those that are actually dealing with issues to provide asylum for them. I did the story just a couple of days ago with Asia Bibi, the Christian that's being persecuted in Pakistan, and people are trying to kill her. It's people like that I absolutely understand why we are granting asylum and refugee status to people like that. But here's the thing that we have to keep in mind. We can't just have massive droves of people crossing our border and claiming refugee status, because first of all, we don't know if each one of them have a legitimate claim to refugee status. But second of all, the idea that America is somehow other countries' dumping ground, that when they have citizens that they can no longer take care of and that they are not providing for, then we'll just send them to America. They'll take care of them. It'll be fine. No, that's not what America is. America's government has a responsibility to protect our citizens. They are not charged with taking care of the rest of the world. And so this idea that we're supposed to be providing for them and taking care of every single refugee that has some kind of political disagreement with people in their country and that are suffering for it, I'm sympathetic to those people, and I want to help as many of those people as possible. But the idea that we have some kind of obligation to do so, that we're bad people if we don't take in every single person that claims refugee status in the world. No, America is not the dumping ground for every other country. It's just not who we are. We don't have that responsibility. It's a nice thing that we do it, but there's a difference in being charitable and being obligated to. It is a charitable thing that Americans want to help people that are suffering political or religious persecution, but we are not obligated to do so. It's a fine but important distinction that I want to make. And more from the AP. Quote, they also complained about how the Caravan forced its way into Mexico, which is true. You can actually see the video of it. They were tearing down the walls on the southern border of Mexico. And then they continue on, calling it an invasion, and they voiced worries that their taxes might be spent to care for the group. Gosh, if only we had thought of that. That's exactly the complaint that conservatives have been issuing about the border for decades, literal decades. That when somebody comes into the community, if they are living there illegally, they don't pay taxes, yet they are getting benefits not only from welfare programs, which usually happens, or from the school system that usually happens, but also from protection for things like police. It costs more to police more people. It costs more to have a fire department for a larger city. And so when you're growing your population and a large portion of that population is not paying into the system, then they are getting things for free that the citizens are providing for, that they are giving their taxpayer money to provide services for people that are not paying into the system. And I think it's hilarious. The Democrats often talk about how rich people don't pay their fair share. You know who's really not paying their fair share? The people that are coming across the border, coming in here illegally, partaking in the services that are offered, and usually having their kids educated and fed and provided for, and not paying into the system. That's the people not paying their fair share. And there's all these programs with the SNAP program, food stamps. SNAP is the new food stamps. You've got all kinds of programs where it comes to employment, and yet they're still not paying into the system. And if the citizen is having to pay for services that are being provided to the non-citizen, then the non-citizen is getting a better deal than the citizen is. It's ridiculous. And the Tijuanans are well within their right to say, we don't like the fact that the government is taking our taxes and then using taxpayer money to provide for people that are not Tijuanans, that are not citizens, that are not supposed to be here in the first place. That is perfectly reasonable for them to take that stance. And Mexico actually paid for, in other words, Mexican dollars went to paying for police escorts for this caravan, escorting them right up to the U.S. border. Why? Why would they do that? Why would they expend their resources doing so? Because they didn't want to have to take care of them. They didn't want the caravan to break up, and now they've got to take care of these Hondurans. So what did they do? They just passed them on along up to Big Brother United States so that they could take care of it, so that then they'll be their problem. Mexico is a really crappy neighbor, and they have been for a long time. They are a really terrible ally. Because when they have a problem with their own citizens or with citizens that came into their country from somewhere else, when they have an issue that they can't take care of, that they don't want to provide for, they just send them right on up into America. Basically trusting that we're just going to take care of it. They're the Americans. They'll be fine. They're a rich country. They can do it. That'd be like if your next door neighbor saw somebody running into his house and instead of shooting the guy was like, hey, you know what? My neighbor's got a lot nicer stuff than this. And you know what? In fact, I have a spare key to his house. So I tell you what, if you just won't rob me, I'll let you into his house. It'll be fine. That's basically what what the United States is doing to America. They escorted these people intending for them to go across the border and enter into the United States. And maybe what's going to happen now, and I hope that this would be the best case scenario, if Mexico gets stuck with most of these people and has to take care of them and get some political backlash from doing this, that would be the best case scenario, because maybe then they would see how it feels. And maybe then they would say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be sending all of our citizens up to America that we can't provide for, we can't take care of. Because then maybe there would be a little bit of self-reflection from the Mexican government on that. And by the way, just a brief note on this, the Department of Homeland Security has reported and released a report today that they found over 270 caravan goers with criminal records. So these are just the ones that we know about. We don't know about the others, but at least 270 out of the 10,000 strong caravan have some kind of criminal record. And so the idea that these are just poor refugees, mostly women and children. Look, if you're looking at the video, that's not what it looks like. It looks like a bunch of young guys. And so 270 of them with criminal records, that's not really surprising. There is a legitimate concern that is going on here.